Having a successful career in PPC is about so much more than bids and budgets and targeting and creative. You're about to hear 3 unique perspectives on how to be successful in PPC beyond the platforms. Welcome to PPC Zone July 2022. I'm your host, Jyll Saskin Gales, and I created this event to elevate new perspectives and insights within our industry. Here's how it works. Everyone is invited to apply to speak at PPC Zone on our website, ppc.zone. Each month, I select 3 speakers to each share their expertise in a 7-minute presentation. Then we get together for a live panel to answer questions from our live audience on YouTube and LinkedIn. For those who missed the live event, don't worry, you can watch the video recording on YouTube, listen to the audio on the PPC Zone podcast, or read the transcript on our website. Again, the links to apply, watch, and catch up are all at ppc.zone. Let's dive in. First up in the zone, we have a speaker who's been working in digital for 15 years. I can think of no one more qualified to share this perspective with us, returning to PPC in a time of change. This speaker has spent time on both the client and agency side of our industry and is currently a paid search manager at Marcus Thomas. You may know her as RunnerKick on Twitter. Please welcome Sarah Stemen.
Hi, Jyll. Thank you so much for that introduction. It's a little embarrassing, my slide right there. Let me get that back. All right. So today, I'm so excited to be talking about returning to PPC in a time of change. So I'm actually really passionate about this because I did take a break during my career to raise my children. And when I came back, it was an exciting time. It's definitely a time of change within the industry. And one thing that it was, as I was reflecting on this presentation that I really gave a lot of thought to was that night before I started my first job back, right? I remember I had so much anxiety, and what it really was is I was afraid to open the MCC and see, all the match types thrown together. I wanted my ad group segmented. I was very particular about how the naming convention was to be set up. And I opened the MCC and I was shocked. The first thing I saw was some new metrics. I saw ad interactions and interaction rate. Now, I can honestly tell you that when I saw these metrics, I didn't know what they meant. I just wanted my impressions, my click-through rate, and my clicks back. Turns out they were in there. I just had to customize my columns a little bit. And I can honestly tell you that while I'm a big proponent of embracing change, I still never bothered to really understand what ad interactions or interaction rate is. But that was my first kind of dose of this has changed. But then as I started working, things got much more familiar. It's a lot like riding a bike. However, the bike ride is speeding up. I think the change is something where you have to embrace it, because if you don't, you're going to be stuck in those old tactics that were giving me anxiety, such as segmenting everything by match type, over segmenting, 1 keyword per ad group. And that's just not the way our industry is moving at this point in time, which brings me to my next big change. And I tried to stick with 7 along with the 7-minute theme. So we'll see how these go. And my plan is to go from sort of the topmost sort of change that maybe everybody thinks about and kind of funnel it down to the things that maybe you don't realize are changing and that we're kind of moving along slowly with. So automation. I cannot talk about change within our industry without talking about automation. But to me, automation means so much more than simply the bidding algorithms and what we typically think of. When I think of automation, I think of tasks that I used to do by hand. So back when I started in PPC, we were downloading spreadsheets and doing pivot tables to find all the redundant keywords in an account. It was like untangling a giant ball of yarn. And I always felt like the stronger the PPC manager the stronger PPC managers were just really good at getting to the redundant keywords and the ball of yarn and untangling it. And just in general, those tasks have been automated, and it makes my life way easier because of the amount of time that used to be spent on these tasks. The other big thing, and I think, those of you that live sort of within our industry and are on Twitter and engage in those conversations, we all do a lot of sort of complaining, let's just say it out loud, but a lot of times we're not taking the time to realize that we've been given some other tools. And for me, the biggest one is the reporting center, right? So I am in there a lot. That used to be a manual download and an Excel document and a pivot table I would create on my own. And so right there in the interface, I can pull metrics. I can pull all my data and segment by campaign type. There's so much that you can do quickly now with some of the tools that have been given to us. And then also, I mentioned this was in my account for a brief hot minute, and then I haven't seen it since. But there was a period of time when Google actually went in on my campaign tab and was highlighting the changes that were happening. And then the interface would actually tell me why that metric changed. So again, more and more of this automation is, in my opinion, a positive change with the industry and something that we should appreciate and that we should lean into, because it helps us as managers do a better job working with the client. We're more responsive. We're more agile. The other thing is the experiments. So again, just going back to over the time that I was gone, there were more and more features added to the platform. And again, this was something before that we would have to run different campaign types and download Excel sheets and pull all those metrics side by side and determine if they're statistically significant. It's all done right there for us. I love it. I embrace it. And these are the things that for me make my job more fun. And then I added bulk customizers too, mostly because right now with my current role, I'm in the frame of rolling out promos and just the ability to customize your ads quickly within the business center. Again, just powerful tools that are there for our disposal that I definitely feel like are things that should be embraced and, definitely, I guess the best way to put it is appreciated. So moving on to audiences, again, kind of starting at what everybody sort of expects and coming down a little bit. Everyone talks about audiences now. And I use the picture here, and you'll see this sort of in my slides. I use guardrails. I see audiences as sort of those guardrails of your campaign. If you are able to layer in audiences as part of your campaigns, it allows you to be a little bit more aggressive in your bidding, a little bit more aggressive with your match type, because you know within a certain degree of certainty that net of what you're bidding on and within the search, when I'm talking about search here, has that knowledge and that data behind it. So just with audiences, and I will say that I truly believe that Google has, and I'm speaking mostly about Google because that's where I spend a lot of my time. I definitely feel like they are better at this. Better certainly than they were 5-10 years ago. And over the past year, as more and more advertisers are automating, I'm just seeing signs that the audiences are more accurate. I see that in my search term reports. I see that reflected in my click-through rates. It's just where we're going. And so I had to put a little bit of something that I think is the elephant in the room. I guess you got a sneak preview at the beginning, and I sort of gave a sad face. And I want to sort of put there's like emotion in this. So with Google support, the quality is not what it used to be. And it's a hard thing for me to say, because I look at when I first started as a young marketer, I wouldn't be where I am today without very, very talented Google reps. I believe that there are still quite a few out there that are doing everything they can and supporting advertisers. but the interactions are just not what they used to be. And I know that that's hard, but I do feel like there are certainly changes and positives that have come out of that lack of support. And that would be what I would call the information access. And for me, this is probably the biggest change in the industry that nobody really talks about. And I know when Jyll gave her introduction, Jyll's on Twitter. So we know to get information about what's going on within marketing, we have podcasts, we have YouTube, we have TikTok, we have Twitter and blogs. When I first started in this industry, the only way I could keep current in information was to simply read blogs. And I have 3 children. It is really hard to sit down and just read. And I personally digest information better when it's just coming into my ears and I'm doing laundry and I'm taking a walk. And the ability to access information in our field is there. It's changing, it's evolving, it's been changing. And I think that's one of the largest changes that nobody talks about, is how prevalent the information in our community is. I also am a huge fan of YouTube. So if you were to ask me how I get most of my paid search information now, it would definitely be through podcasts and YouTube, and then blogs would be a third. I don't go to the blogs first. So with that, another huge change that I've seen is community. And I wanted to give a feeling of emotion with this, but the truth is the community has really bonded over the past couple of years. And I think it's a lot of things coming together. I think it's that with the automation and with the constant change that we're seeing, you have to bond together with other professionals, because the reality is a lot of us don't necessarily know what that change will mean, what the impact will be. And so we find comfort in the community of paid search professionals to try to glean that information and walk through these changes together and have these super important conversations. And so I definitely feel like the community has evolved. And then even this week, another conversation I was having, which I think is super important to point out, because I did talk about the way that information access has changed. The other big thing is within the community, I find people share completely openly at this point in time. It used to be when I first started in PPC, we sort of held different tactics kind of close to the vest, and people now just come out and say, this is what I would do. This is how I would fix the problem, without sugarcoating absolutely anything. And I think that's a testament to all the change we've had to go through together. And I also think it's a testament of we've all sort of grown up in this industry, because when Jyll said 15 years I've been in this industry, there's not that many people who have been in the industry as long. So it's definitely something where we've grown up and as an industry become less territorial over our knowledge. It's sort of us that makes us good marketers. And so kind of with that, the biggest change I see, and this is definitely personally, and again, with the entire field of PPC, is I truly believe that we've transitioned to be true marketers. What do I mean by that? I think with the tasks that I had mentioned early on in my presentation, the reporting center, the automated tasks that are done for me, the finding redundant keywords. I know I mentioned that a lot, but I used to spend a lot of time in large accounts digging around to find the duplicate keywords. When those tasks are automated, we can spend more time truly thinking as marketers. And I think that that's been great for me personally, I think professionally, and I think it's really set the industry on fire. It's no longer about the keyword. It's sort of positioning where that keyword sits within that entire funnel. And if that makes sense for that account and that person at that time for the message that they have to receive for the advertiser. So definitely something that has changed, and I would say something I've truly leaned into. So lastly, but not least, here's my information. So I am Runner Kick on Twitter, like Jyll mentioned. I'm on there probably every day and a little bit on the weekends. And then I'm also on LinkedIn, and I am currently at Marcus Thomas for my agency.
Thank you so much, Sarah, for sharing your unique perspective and insights with us in the zone. As you saw, you can connect with Sarah on Twitter and on LinkedIn. And if you have a question for Sarah, go ahead and type it into the chat if you're watching live right now on YouTube or LinkedIn. We will see your questions and we'll get to them during the live panel. Next up in the zone, this speaker is an ethical marketing strategist at Magniventris. He helps organizations make their digital marketing more inclusive, secure, ethical, and effective. Now he's going to share his perspective with us on ethics in PPC. This speaker has 12 years of multi-channel digital marketing experience. You may know him as Furkung Mububo on Twitter. Please welcome Doug Thomas.
Hey, y'all. How are you? Thank you so much, Jyll, for having me here at PPC Zone. Thank you so much, Sarah, for the really, really great presentation. I'm Doug Thomas. My pronouns are he and him. And like Jyll said, I've been in the digital marketing world for 12 years. I've been doing almost everything under the digital sun, including search, social, and video advertising. And now I'm the lead strategist at Magniventris, an ethical digital marketing company that helps organizations make their digital marketing more inclusive, accessible, safe, ethical, and effective. Today, I'm super, super excited to show you all some ways to make your PPC advertising more ethical. We're going to go over one thing from each of the 3 different ways that ethics comes up in PPC advertising: inclusion, accessibility, and privacy. And while we do that, I want y'all to think about, and if you're comfortable, share in chat, what ethical issues keep you up at night? So inclusivity is maybe the first step to making our ads ethical. It's ultimately an important goal. We want to make sure all of our clients' customers feel like they're welcome to buy the thing that we're advertising. This isn't just a moral imperative. It's part of over 3 decades of law for industries like the financial world. In 1989, the regulations for the fair housing advertising were published, providing FHA lenders with guidance on how to create advertising that doesn't exclude people. Among advice around media placements, translation, and copy, the regulations have a section about what they call selective use of human models. This section instructs that when you're using stock photos, you have to actually represent the people that are in your audience. This seems simple, but there are thousands of times where you've seen this just not happen. As an example, let's look at one of the most successful direct-to-consumer companies, Shein. If you look for a dress, you see literally one model, a thin white woman. Their regular sizing goes from size 4 to size 12. A customer might wonder, how do these clothes fit on different kinds of bodies? If Shein provided even just one other model showing how the dress fits on a different body type, their sales would increase. Their returns would decrease. And overall, the retailer's profitability would be even higher. And this is just one example of how someone might use inclusivity to make their ads more effective. But I think it's the most obvious. For every business, showing your audience how your product helps the real them will always be more effective than showing someone who's only kind of like them. But it's not enough to just look like you help people like them. It's July, and so it's Disability Pride Month. This month brings awareness and visibility to the disability community. The next step to making your PPC advertising more ethical is supporting folks who might use the web differently than the majority of users. One definition of disability is really key to how we can approach accessibility. Microsoft's Inclusive Toolkit defines disability not as a personal health condition, but as a mismatch between expected and actual human interactions. Using this definition, we can think of accessibility as not an attempt to design for some unknowable edge case, but as improving the usability of the site for everyone. And usability is no more important than on the single most important part of any lead generating landing page, the form. So let's take a look at a form I recently redesigned, and it's from a Wix site. This form has actually some great points for accessibility, notably the size and the inputs and the clearly delineated input areas. But there's two big issues we can solve. The first issue is the basic layout. There's 2 columns and then just one. This creates a moment of hesitation for the user because the zigzag eye motion adds to the cognitive load required to complete the form. The next issue is easily seen in these first 2 fields. There are no labels. They only use placeholders. This common design creates a few problems. On longer forms, this can make people lose their place as they're filling it out. In addition, labels act as additional click targets, increasing the area where people can click to get into that field. And for people who use screen readers, using just placeholders affects how the screen reader reads back this form to them. So here's the redesigned form. It's a lot simpler, 1 column with labels. By focusing on the usability of your landing pages, you'll increase the accessibility for every single one of your customers. Now, representing your customers and doing the work to support their needs is great, but there's one final thing to do to help your PPC campaigns be more ethical. Actually informing our clients' customers of how we use their data is vastly underrepresented way to be ethical about our PPC advertising. So many times when we drive ads to a website, we see a privacy policy that quickly devolves into 10-cent words like herein and vague phrases like trusted third parties. What's funny is that there's a legal requirement against this. GDPR's Article 12 requires that data controllers provide information about data processing, quote, in a concise, transparent, intelligible, and easily accessible form using clear and plain language. The good news is that one of the best privacy policy templates comes built into the back end of the most widely used CMS on the web, WordPress. So the first thing that you'll notice is that the WordPress privacy policy asks you to state exactly what personal data you collect. If you've been keeping up with the news, you'll know that IP addresses, locations, and even device types are all considered personal data. Tell your customers every single thing that you collect. The second great thing is that it separates out your data collection by action. So you can structure your privacy policy alongside your data audit. This helps you organize your privacy policy in a way that helps customers find where their data is going based on what they do on the site. And finally, the WordPress template provides sections for other data partners. Your hosting company logs personal information. Your web analytics collects personal information. And if you're using an email service to collect newsletter signups, you're sending that company personal information. Your customers deserve to know specifically who else gets their data from you. Privacy policies communicate how advertising actually works to the public. We as advertisers have to help our clients and their customers protect their data online. So that's a really quick overview of ethical considerations in PPC. Promote inclusivity by using models that reflect all of your audience. Focus on usability for all of your users to help increase accessibility. And use a descriptive, plain language privacy policy to explain to your clients' customers how you use their personal information. I hope you all have gotten out of the time that we've had together the same feeling that I have about doing marketing ethically, that everything that makes our marketing more ethical also makes it more effective. Thanks so much, Jyll, for having me, and I hope y'all stay tuned for Armina.
Thank you, Doug, for sharing your unique perspective and insights with us in the zone. If you'd like to connect with Doug, you can find him on Twitter at @FrakangMabubo or at Magniventris, or feel free to shoot him an email, dthomas@magniventris.com. And if you have a question for Doug, go ahead and type it into the chat if you're watching live right now on YouTube or LinkedIn, and we will get to your questions during our live panel coming up. Our final speaker in the zone this month is one of those rare breeds, an SEO and SEM specialist. She is here to share her perspective on something near and dear to many of our hearts, PPC stakeholder management. This speaker is passionate about digital marketing, marketing analytics, and customer success. You may have seen her on Twitter and LinkedIn, and now she's in the zone. Please welcome Armina Farid.
Hello, everyone. My name is Armina Farid, and I'm working as an SEO and SEM specialist with Systemsoft Technologies. I have 10 plus years of experience in marketing and 6 years in PPC and SEO. I have master's degree in international business, and you can find me on LinkedIn and Twitter. Today, I will be talking about stakeholders management and engagement in PPC. Let's start with a question. Why stakeholders are important? Stakeholders are important because they are our customers. Without them, there are no campaigns to run. They keep us in business. Stakeholders are also people who provide us support for the long-term success of the campaign. And this gives rise to opportunities for us to learn and grow as the goals are achieved. PPC campaign may depend on several stakeholders or just a few, but breaking the silos and working together will ensure the success of the campaign, because campaigns are run by people like you and me, with people and for people. Today, I will be talking about 6 key ways to successfully engage stakeholders, and they are setting up a process, having strategy sessions, providing continuous education, sharing reports, taking feedback, and working with empathy. Let's talk about process. Use project management tools. There are many project management and communication tools in the market, free or paid. These tools will give you a head start and improves productivity. Make sure to clearly identify and mention steps in your process documents. This will help stakeholders to recall the steps and keeps everybody on the same page. Mention due dates and assign owners. These are some project management tools, free tools in the market, both for project management and communication. Strategy sessions. Knowing goals is a critical part of campaign success. Deep and clear understanding of stakeholders' objectives will ensure that the campaigns are set up in properly with the right tracking to measure conversions. Be a consultant. Consultation provides the opportunity to inform and to engage. Use your knowledge to advise which campaigns would be best and, more importantly, why. Discuss and identify top-level KPIs. They help in making data-driven decisions and evaluate the success of the campaigns. Different PPC platforms let you choose marketing objective. For example, in Google, you can tell the platform what you want to achieve. You can identify the right campaigns that best suited to meet your campaign or your business needs. All channels, PPC channels, they provide budget forecasting tool. Like, for example, in Google, you can use average daily budget and forecast based on the keywords, how many clicks you are going to get. And if you have historical conversion data, you can also forecast conversion metrics. Running campaigns without understanding of audience targeting is risky. So talk to your stakeholders about different audience targeting options available and how you can target different stages of the customer journey with the right campaign. Education. Create an effective, simple, and value-driven communication plan. Communicate with them in a manner that works best for them. Keep them informed. This will also help stakeholders to make right decisions to achieve their overarching goals. Talk to them about consent and privacy, accessibility, mobile-first and optimized landing pages, share with them benchmarks, industry and market trends, talk to them about 7-day learning period, do competitors research and share ad copies and keep them informed on new features and updates. But make sure to share information in easy to remember format, remove extra information, and provide clear explanation. Keep ego aside. And this is an important one. If something is not going right, recognize why that is happening and what can be done to change it. Many times we think that we have said the same thing again and again, but it is not working. So take a step back and think why that is not working and what can be done to change it. No one said managing and engaging stakeholders would be easy. So lead with a lot of patience. The key to win is to lead with knowledge and to admit if you do not know something, being transparent, but ready to find answers and provide solutions will go a long way. Reports. Reports play a key role in keeping stakeholders informed and if the campaigns are moving in right direction. So discuss with them the type of reports that you can share and in which format they want to see. Be consistent in sharing your reports. Customize for audience, provide context and insights, provide definitions and create comparisons. This will also help stakeholders to review and make sense of the reports when they're not sitting with you. Feedback. Taking feedback from your stakeholders strengthen relationships and help make it formulate business decisions. There's always scope for improvement. Have an open and honest conversation, listen to them, recognize the gaps, strive for improvement, and celebrate the wins. Empathy. The best way to have long-term relationship and retain customers is to find their problems and understand their needs and address them. Put yourself in their shoes. Set aside your interpretation. Understand their constraints and provide value-based solutions. Respect their opinion and consider the shortcomings. Finding the right balance is hard, but learn how to balance reality with the expectations of stakeholders. There's an African proverb that goes like this: if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. Thank you.
Thank you, Armina, for sharing your unique perspective and insights with us in the Zone. If you'd like to connect with Armina, you can find her on Twitter at Armina Farid and on LinkedIn. And if you have a question for Armina, go ahead and type it into the chat if you're watching live now on YouTube or LinkedIn, as we're about to get started with our live panel. Let's bring all of our speakers back on screen now. PPC Beyond the Platforms. It's such a timely topic for PPC Zone July 2022, and a special one for our first ever event. So much of the conversation in our industry focuses on platform changes, and often begrudging the platform changes. So I'm really welcoming this opportunity to get pulled out of that day-to-day mindset through each of your perspectives. I'm your host, Jyll Saskin Gales, and I created this event to elevate new perspectives and insights in our industry. I'm here with Sarah Stemen, Paid Search Manager at Marcus Thomas, who just spoke about returning to PPC in a time of change. I'm here with Doug Thomas, Ethical Marketing Strategist at Magniventris, who just spoke about ethics in PPC advertising. I'm here with Armina Farid, SEO/SEM Specialist at Systems Soft Technologies, who just spoke about PPC stakeholder management. Thank you all so much for joining me today. And if you're watching this live right now on YouTube or LinkedIn and have any questions, please feel free to type it into the chat. Now, we do have a question that's been asked on both YouTube and on LinkedIn. After Sarah's talk, Sarah, what podcast do you recommend? And after Sarah, I'll ask the rest of our speakers to answer as well.
No, great question. So love Marketing O'Clock. I think if I had to pick a like end all be all one, I do not miss it every week. In fact, you'll always find me tweeting about it. Also, because I don't get to always keep up with PPC chat, there is the PPC chat, and I'm trying to remember the after, you know what I'm talking about.
Roundup, yes.
PPC chat roundup. You can catch up on all the conversation that happened there. That's from Anu, who is also doing a conference. Plug for Anu, a friend of all of ours. And then also, this is a YouTube channel, but I'm one of those people who I can listen to a YouTube channel as a podcast. So basically I put it in and I'm not watching the screen, but I really like Solutions 8. They're super, super transparent. They say it how it is. They're funny. And yeah, I mean, all about listening and doing laundry. Thanks. Great question.
That's great. And Doug or Armina, do you have any podcast recommendations for our audience?
I like to listen to Today in Digital Marketing by Todd Maffin. It's every day, very short podcast, and it keeps you informed. I also like to listen to a couple of more sustainable and more inclusive driven podcast in marketing.
I'm with you, Armina. I also consume the Today in Digital Marketing podcast every day. I'm actually a premium subscriber, so I get the transcript emailed to me, and that's how I am able to keep up on that each day. Doug, are you a podcast person at all? And if not, how do you keep up on industry news?
So most of what I do to keep up on industry news is follow PPC chat. It is just the probably best place if you are a Twitter person, which totally understand if you are not. For PPC, the other big podcast that I listen to is from the I'm looking it up right now, the Center for Humane Technology. It's Tristan Harris and Asa Raskin. It's Your Undivided Attention. And it's a little bit broader than just advertising, but they obviously talk a lot about advertising. And so that's one where you end up getting some of those really interesting perspectives on what the right way to approach, say, social media advertising might be.
Got it. And one more great resource I found for help with inclusive marketing is Google has actually released its own guide to inclusive marketing that Google's own marketing team uses. It's called the All-In Guide to Inclusive Marketing, if you want to check that out. Great. So we have another question here for you, Doug. Doug, are you generally in favor of the transition away from third-party audiences in terms of maintaining user privacy? And how do you suggest advertisers conform to this?
Yeah. So in general, I've found that the best way to approach finding your audiences is by doing old school marketing research. I recently talked to somebody who is just starting out on YouTube advertising. They have a home services business, and they had said, we have an ad group that's running to audiences. We have an ad group that's running to keywords. What else could we do? And I said, are you running on this old house's YouTube channel? And that's the way that I would go about finding your audiences. What are the top 10 YouTube channels that they follow? What are the top 10 websites? And go back to a much older style of doing sort of display and that kind of advertising, and pick your placements, because that way you know where your ads are running and you're not worrying about the audience. You just know which website they're on, and that matches your audience.
It sounds like you're advocating for more content-based or context-based targeting rather than the audience targeting that's really swept the digital marketing universe over the last decade.
Yeah, and that's really influenced by Tim Huang's research and by Augustine Fu's research. Both of their research kind of points in that direction.
Thank you, Doug. And we have a question here for Armina. How do you deal with multiple stakeholders with competing interests? Any advice you have there based on your experience?
I'll start with, identifying the priorities. What is best for the company and where we can align with companies' objectives and take it from there. So even though we work with multiple stakeholders, everybody has their own viewpoint, but identifying which one you need to give a priority to that aligns with the overall objective of the stakeholder who has requested you to run the campaign, I think that will help to filter down the, which way to go.
Who's paying the bill at the end of the day? Always a key thing to keep in mind. And something I wanted to ask each of you who's had plenty of experience in PPC and comes at the industry from a variety of different perspectives here, what advice would you have for someone who is just starting their career in PPC right now? If you were talking directly to them right now, first day on the job in PPC, what's one piece of advice you would give to them? Who would like to go first?
I mean, I guess I can, since I feel like I've been through a lot of new hires, I'll be honest. Really to learn to tell the story of what happened in an account. I think the biggest thing I've seen just time and time again is just a complete regurgitation of the report. Your client can read that. I want to know if impressions were up. Why were impressions up? We don't necessarily manage to impressions. Tell them that. Tell them why it's on the report to help tell that story. Explain the clicks, explain the click-through rate and how that's really telling people that this is showing the level at which your ad is really resonating with the searcher. Really dig deep and get into that. And then use that data to guide them to what you'll be doing next in the account. And I think that's super important, and it enables the people that you're meeting with to maybe, to Armina's point, the stakeholders start to understand, okay, here are the metrics that are moving. Here's the story. Here's why I'm choosing to move with this data versus that data. And I think it helps avoid a lot of those things.
The storytelling piece, absolutely.
Yeah.
I would say, don't take shortcuts. When you are young, you are getting into this, so do it hard way. Get into it. Have grit to go into the, as far as possible, and understand the, granularity and understand the nuances, understand the social aspect of it. I'm talking from stakeholders management perspective. So get into that.
Absolutely. Doug, anything you'd like to add? Advice for a fresh PPCer?
Yeah. So, new folks is one of my favorite things. It's probably some of the proudest moments that I had working in agencies, is really seeing people grow into their roles. And I think the biggest thing is to sort of trust your instincts as well. If something sounds weird on its face, to go, yes, that sounds weird, and take the time and look into it. And really, in that same kind of way of finding the, actual story behind it, be able to explain it to someone, these kind of things. The best way to do that is by sort of following your nose naturally.
Absolutely. And maybe in the beginning you don't have instincts, and that's okay. If something seems a little off, look into it, and those instincts are what you're going to hone over time. And one thing that I would add is don't try to beat the algorithm or trick or hack the platform. Like Google and Meta and the others, they know what they're doing. And so the advice I always give is try to understand how the platform works and why it might work that way and why a feature might have been designed that way, and figure out how to make that work for you or your client's goals rather than trying to work against it and get around it somehow. All right, this event is wrapping up. Thank you once again to Sarah, Doug, and Armina for joining us this evening. And also a special thank you to Corey Henke and Jim Banks for mentoring our speakers. Next month, PPC Zone, August 2022, I'm excited to present e-commerce PPC Let's Get Ready for the Holidays, featuring Corey Henke, Mandeep Kaur, and Menachem Ani. Go to ppc.zone to set a reminder. You won't want to miss it next month. To learn more about PPC Zone and our speakers, or to apply to speak at an upcoming event, visit ppc.zone. I'm your host, Jyll Saskin Gales. You can find me on Twitter at Jyll Saskin Gales, and I look forward to seeing you again soon in the zone.